Conservative MP Matt Jeneroux resigns from Parliament 2 days after Chris d'Entremont crossed the floor to the Liberals.
I am deeply grateful for your friendship and concern. However, I ask that you please not attempt to contact my family during this time. I ran in the last election hopeful that Canadians would put their faith in a team led by Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives, offering a chance to change Canada's perception in our own country and around the world. I wanted desperately to play a role in that vision. Although the outcome was not what I anticipated, I have great admiration for the many remarkable individuals who were elected to the House of Commons on both sides of the aisle, who continue to dedicate themselves to the betterment of our nation. Their work gives me faith that the momentum toward a stronger and more unified Canada endures. With all of this in mind, earlier today I spoke with our opposition whip, a colleague and friend for whom I have the utmost respect, to inform him of my decision to resign as a member of Parliament. It was not an easy decision, but it is, I believe, the right one. I hope to have the opportunity to address the House one final time in the future. For now, my focus must turn entirely to my family and to the responsibilities that come with that. So the breaking news on our watch this hour: Matt Jeneroux, an MP who was widely speculated to be among those considering to cross the floor from the Conservatives to the Liberals, has announced instead, a day after denying that that would be the case, that he is resigning as an MP. And James, I'll start with you. What does this say to you?
There's more to this. I don't know exactly what there is, but on the surface, he was just elected 6 months ago. So I don't know. But I would say this about Matt: he's a friend of mine. I've known him for years. He's a good man. He's a smart guy. He's a good guy. He was just reelected in his riding. He served multiple terms for his riding in Edmonton. His wife works in British Columbia. She's a medical doctor. The tension of going to and from Alberta and Ottawa back and forth while having a family split in another part of the country is not an easy thing to do. So on the surface, I will assume that's why, and that maybe he's seeking another opportunity. But there's more to this than just that. The crunch of the pressure about the rumors about floor crossing and what's going on here. It'd be unfair to speculate about it. But I'll just say to your viewers that Matt Jeneroux is a good guy, a really good guy. This is a loss to the Conservative Party, a loss to his constituents, and it's unfortunate to see him leaving Parliament Hill.
Marco, I think if I remember right, you also know Matt Jeneroux, despite the fact that you were both in different parties. I know for a fact that he was involved in some discussions about crossing the floor, that the reaction from the party yesterday was quite significant, swift and specific to him, so much so that he did put out that statement at the end of the day. What do you think is going on here, and what's your reaction?
Don't know. Would be reluctant to speculate. I'm inclined to agree with James that there may be some other reason. But yeah, Matt was my next door neighbor in Valor Building, where I had my last office. And I know Chris d'Entremont, and I think it underscores the human dimension to this. I have some experience with floor crossers. I ran against one for my Liberal nomination. And some of the folks on this panel may recall that. But I certainly wish, Chris d'Entremont a different outcome. Look, I think this gets back to what we were saying in the prior segment, which is that there is a lot of swirl right now. There's a lot of energy on the Hill. And the challenge for the government is, amidst floor crossing and now resignations, how do you get a budget passed? How do you cut through all of that noise? And to my mind, I think that one of the Prime Minister's great skills is in managing through this kind of tumult and turmoil. And we all pay attention to these stories. You've got to cover it, Vashi. That's your job. We're commenting on it because we've got experience on it. But frankly, I think what Canadians want to know is how they're going to be able to pay the bills, and how they're going to, counter the tariffs at the border, and how they're going to go about their daily lives in a Canada that is strong. And so in order to do that, the government has an agenda, has a plan, and that materializes in the form of the budget. So you got to keep your eyes forward, keep your hands steady on the wheel, and make sure that you keep Canadians at the top of your mind. And the way to do that is to try to get this budget passed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to take away from the seriousness of anything that people are facing, but it is a political show.
Yeah.
And an MP that was rumored to move
For
parties
sure.
yesterday just quit. So I apologize. I do have to cover it.
For sure.
Tony, I wanted to get your read because like all of you have mentioned, you've been on floor, you've been around floor crossings on both sides of the spectrum, or both sides of the aisle. What does this say to you tonight?
Well, firstly, let me wish Matt well. I knew him as well as James did, and great guy, so I wish him well. Let's not forget that I think I read a stat that there's been over 300 floor crossings since the first parliament
Correct.
in Canadian history. So that's a lot. Some people would say that's a small number. I think it's a big number, actually. So it happens a lot. The most spectacular one in recent memory, of course, was a lady I ran against for leader, Belinda Stronach, crossing the floor, giving Paul Martin
That was a big
one
one.
extra vote that he needed to keep going in Parliament. That one extra vote kept him going in Parliament. And then, of course, the next election happened and Stephen Harper was elected as Prime Minister. So I gained some comfort from that little historical memory. And look, it's going to happen. It usually happens, not always, but usually from opposition to government. Let's use the time-honored line: the worst day in government is better than the best day in opposition. Blah blah blah. But it is true, and so I think again with what Marco said, there's a lot of heat going on, not a lot of light. But I think that the broader picture is the public policy decisions of the Carney government.
This is, just the fact that it's definitely not the drama of Belinda Stronach. I think we can all probably agree on that at this moment, Christy. But it is happening at a particularly important time for the government, right? The reason I think there was such focus, besides the spectacle of it all, was because they're so close to a majority, right?
Yes.
2 days ago, they
Yes.
were 3 seats away. Yesterday became 2 seats away. And everyone is wondering whether they'll be able to secure enough to actually hold a majority, which would be a big difference in the way in which this government is able to conduct their business. What do you make of the fact that this MP in particular decided to quit today, to resign his seat, instead of either stay with the Conservatives or move to the Liberals?
Yeah, there's no doubt that it's consequential. The moment is huge. You're quite right about that. It doesn't, floor crossings sometimes happen, but this is pretty spectacular. And I can tell you my own experience of floor crossings. One of our caucus members left because he wanted to become the speaker, and he sunk the whole government. So there are consequential floor crossings and just regular ones that happen because people might be ambitious. It is really hard to know. It's impossible to know what's going on for him and his family. There could be many other more complicated things that we don't see. But I will say, in my experience with these things, and it's been more than one event as a BC Liberal and leading a coalition government for years, that people, when they decide to leave or when they decide to come and they've come from somewhere else, the feeling amongst their once very close friends is brutal, and they're excised. They're treated as traitors. There's lots of angry, harsh words that are exchanged privately between people who were once very close. And I think for some people who may be fresher to politics, that can be a really devastating, personally devastating feeling. You're in a caucus of people, you all trust each other, you've all worked together, you know each other well, and then everybody turns on you and you look around and you say, I thought we were friends. It seems to me that has to have been part of his decision, that after just, all this talk and certainly some evidence that he had been having a discussion about leaving with the Liberals, that there was kind of no going back for him in the Conservatives. Those friendships, or the ones that he thought he had been irrevocably changed. And perhaps he just decided, you know what? There's no place for me here. Politics isn't the kind of business that I want to be into. I wasn't really made for this kind of event. I didn't really know how it would all unfold, and he just decided to call it quits. Some people do that, and it's proof that politicians are human beings. I think for everybody, the fact that sometimes it's just too hard to carry on, and if that's the case for him, I feel sad for him, but perhaps he's made the right decision for his personal and professional life.
Vashi, important procedural point. If the resignation is effective immediately, I believe it changes the math on the vote.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
I mean, just
Sure.
I think it does. That's what I was. Yeah.
Yeah, we're underanalyzing this a little bit. We're underanalyzing this a little bit.
Right.
Tony Clement just he made the point about Belinda Stronach crossing the floor. She didn't give the Liberals the plurality they needed to pass that budget.
That's right.
It was Chuck Cadman, one member of Parliament. So if Matt Genereux resigns his seat immediately, right? Elizabeth May has frankly the balance of power in this Parliament, maybe with one other member of Parliament, which is interesting because not only did Chuck Cadman have the balance of power, but I'm wondering now as we go into the weekend and into the break week that members of Parliament from all the parties might be thinking of a guy named Joe Manchin. Who became an independent senator for West Virginia very recently and yielded extraordinary power in the United States to get benefits for West Virginia. And he became extremely popular in his state because he had the balance of power in the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate. So I think a lot of members of Parliament may be wondering what kind of power they may want to have as an influence in a one-seat margin, maybe two-vote margin in this Parliament. This is a very destabilizing event for this Parliament.
Tell you what, anyone looking
margin.
for a government House leader ought to hire James because I think he just crystallized the procedural point that I was raising. So thanks, James.
But it's both,
Tony, you want to weigh in too?
Just a quick point. It's both a moment for the Conservative Party in opposition, but also the Liberal Party. The same sort of math applies to the Liberal Party caucus. You have a lot of throw weight there if you want to throw your weight around now.
I honestly don't think anybody can predict what will happen next. Things just seem to be getting crazier and crazier as the weeks go by.
Well, hi. Any thoughts on Genereux and losing another MP?
Well, I think you can ask those questions to Matt.
Why did you think he resigned?
I don't know. I haven't seen the letter.
How much does that hurt you ahead of the votes? And do you still have full confidence in your leader?
I have full confidence in the leader, and we have full confidence that we're going to oppose this inflationary budget.
Do you think you're going to lose any more colleagues?
Bob Fife, the budget is now like what, the number 3 headline of the week. I mean, what do we make of this resignation on the heels of the defection?
Well, it's very interesting. In his letter, Mr. Jeannot praises Pierre Poilievre before the election, but after the election, there are no. That statement of his makes no mention of praise for Pierre Poilievre. He also says that he needs to spend time with his family. There's a backstory that we all know in this city that there has been a lot of pressure that was put on by the Conservative Party on Mr. Jeannot, pressure that quite a number of Conservative MPs are very upset about, because that's not the way to treat another colleague. And that means who's next. And as one very senior Conservative said to me, and I'll read it right now, when Pierre Poilievre loses MPs like Jeannot, you know there's big trouble brewing.
Right.
And there is going to be fallout from what happened to Mr. Jeannot.
When you talk about pressure to not cross the floor?
Pressure to not cross the floor.
To join the Liberals.
So his choice was, if I'm not going to cross the floor because of unhappiness with the style of leadership of Pierre Poilievre, I can't stay in this caucus any longer because of the way I've been treated, so I'm going to resign.
It sounds like whatever is happening behind the scenes is far from over, and more Conservative MPs could follow suit with either Chris d'Entremont or Matt Jeannot. And based on what we heard in the CTV panel, the fact that Elizabeth May, the single Green Party seat, can essentially make or break any vote is quite crazy. Anyway, I would like to know what you think down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, hit that sub button if you are new, and thank you for watching.